Welcome back. Let's see what you did. Let's see what you got. F of negative x, the negative is inside the parentheses. That means you're doing it to the x. You're doing it before. You're going to reflect it. The x's that were positive are now going to become negative. So it's going from the positive x side to the negative x side. That reflects it about the y-axis. Whereas negative f of x means that if I had a value of 2, a y value of 2, it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to become a negative 2. So where it was positive 2 ends up being a negative 2, or if it was a negative 2, it becomes a positive 2. It reflects it about the x-axis. Don't forget x-axis, y-axis, just in case you forgot those two things. 1 over a. This is a little different than what I have in your notes. Earlier I said something different. I said widens, and I don't think I used widens here. I said vertically shrinks, because I think this is closer to what your textbook says. I want to say there's a few questions on your textbook that actually uses vertically shrinks instead of widens. Widens comes from Algebra 2 textbook, and this textbook uses vertically shrinks, so I'm going to stick with this textbook since you'll be checking some of your answers in the back of the book. Which means that your next one, A, should vertically what? It vertically stretches, vertically expands. One of those words will be fine. I'm going to say stretches because it's going to become bigger that way. Okay? The last couple ideas here are you're going to have to be able to apply everything you've learned to a graph situation. So here I have a graph. All I have behind this is f of x, y equals f of x. So if there's anything else behind it you need to see. But in this graph, you are given a function, and it's pretty much a piecewise function. So it's not one of your parent functions, but it doesn't matter because it's just f of x. And I'm going to ask you to do several things, like what would the graph of f of x plus 2 look like? Where would it be? Do you know what the values are? What would that do to the graph? And think of it in terms of what you just learned. So this is our last slide. I have several examples here. I want you to think, and what we're going to do is you're going to discuss this with a neighbor and tell the person you're sitting next to what you think is going to happen to this graph. I'll give you 10 seconds. Be quick. Hopefully you both think that it was rise vertically. So here it is. It says sketch the following graph. I graphed it and I raised each one 2. And if you thought it was going to be at the 6, then you are not paying attention to details. Let me show you what I mean. This says 6, so that means this is 4. That means that this is at 2. This is at 2, 4. These are going by 2s. Maybe you weren't paying attention to that. I don't know. Possibly. Always look at your scale. Okay? All right, so now you have that. Let's get rid of that one, and let's look at this one. What about negative f of x? With the person you're sitting next to, what do you think negative f of x would look like? 10 seconds. So I'm hoping you think that this is a reflection about the x-axis. Anything that was a positive will come to be a negative. Anything that was a negative will go to be a positive. So that means that these points that are here, this was a positive 2, is going to end up being down here at a negative 2. This part here, a positive, comes down to negative 2. This part here that was at a negative 4 becomes a positive 4. And so this graph is just going to flip both directions, and it looks like this. This is the green graph, by the way. You see how that green graph there, I'll move my head out of the way, is a reflection about the x-axis. Let's try another one. Get rid of that green one. Here's the new one. Here's the yellow one. F of x minus 2. F of parentheses x minus 2. Notice that the x minus 2 is in parentheses. 10 seconds to discuss what you think this graph is going to happen to this graph. Answer says it's going to shift to the right by 2. Why the right? Because it's the opposite of negative 2. The opposite. Just like parabolas. It's the opposite. It's happening before. Get rid of that one. What about f of negative x? F of negative x. Look, what was happening there? I almost feel like you guys know where it's going to happen, but I still want to give you time to talk about it. Go. 10 seconds. So it's a reflection about the x-axis. So that means it's a reflection about the y-axis. That means these points that were here, this 4, 2 ends up being over here and being negative 4, 2. This point here goes there. This point here goes there. This point here goes way out there. And so this gray graph is this gray graph. See the reflection. Looks like a mirror. Pretty simple. You're going to have to do this in your homework. Get rid of that one. Well, lastly, I think this is the last one. What about 2 times f of x? 2 times f of x. With a partner, talk about it. This point here gets doubled. This point here gets doubled. This point here was at negative 4, goes to negative 8, gets doubled. This point here is negative 4, gets doubled. Everything gets doubled. It's vertically stretching the graph. So hopefully that all makes sense to you. And that brings us to the end of 6.4's notes. So with that, you should be able to do your homework assignment. I hope everything treats you well, and wish me luck. Hopefully by now I'm past Lodi. I'm into Sacramento. That'd be cool. You guys have a great 3-day weekend this weekend, and be good to Mrs. Hopper.